I know you have all been waiting to see how good the new Matrix movie is. Well, let's go, and I'll show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. What is up, everyone? Movie back again with another review, and this is going to be for the 2021 film The Matrix Resurrections, and this is directed by Lana Wachowski and stars Keanu Reeves, Carrie and Yahyah Abdul Mateen. And this tells the story of Mr. Anderson, otherwise known as Neo, living out his life, but feels connected to something more, and so starts a path of discovery into the world of the Matrix. Now, kind of like Spider-Man No Way Home, I can't go too much into the story details here because it's just going to give away the plot and some spoilers, so I will try to be as brief as possible. Now, I am a bit of a Matrix fan. I think the first one is one of the best movies ever made. I used to rewatch that constantly. I have a lot of love for the second one as well. A lot of people seem to diss that movie, but I had a great cinema experience with that, and I've watched that quite a few times as well. The third one can go and suck it for all I care. I don't like that movie at all. I think it ruined a really great trilogy there, to be honest. But because of that third one, and they knew they were making a Matrix 4, I was just kind of like, oh yeah, Matrix 4 is coming at the end of the year. I'll check it out. And then I seen the trailer and I thought, wow, that is like one of the best movie trailers I have ever seen. And I actually couldn't wait for this. So should the Matrix franchise have been left alone, or was it a good idea to resurrect it? Let's find out. Well, what I will say is this is a very ambitious film, taking the Matrix franchise that looked like it had finished and trying to further it, like 20 years later, was a task in itself, I feel. But you can tell Lana Wachowski's heart and soul has actually gone into this, and she's come up with some pretty good ideas here, to be fair. And she does try and give us something a little bit different to what we are accustomed to. While I was trying to figure out what was happening for the first 30 minutes here, involving Neo and his little run-ins with Trinity at a cafe, the workplace where the Matrix is a word that is uttered constantly, where Neo works, and having him have these small visions that he recognises from the first film, I actually really like the mysterious aspect Resurrections carried with it. Ultimately though, the story that unveils itself as the movie goes on seems to constantly trip over its own feet and roll itself up in this ball of tangled mess, and a movie that seemed a little bit ambitious is too ambitious for its own good in the end, I'm afraid. Don't get me wrong, this movie has some great moments, and that's what kind of excited me about the trailer. Looking at the action on screen, looked like we were in for a treat, especially for Matrix fans, and there are some amazing action scenes here. I mean, everything visually is great to look at as well. The cinematography is on point. I mean, I don't think it's a bad looking film whatsoever, and Lana Wachowski is a talented director, there's no denying that. But it's just a story where I feel like the Matrix Resurrections fails, and also in its pacing. For example, after the first 30 minutes, that mysterious aspect I was talking about of what was going on in the story, something amazing happens in one of the scenes in Neo's office block where he works. And I was just thinking, okay, wow, I love where this story is about to go here. You know, I really like what they've got on board for us. And then Lana Wachowski just sort of takes you out of that and cuts to this other scene that really just slows down momentum. And I was just thinking, what was the point? This movie seems to do this a couple of times. It'll take one step forward and two steps back. And it was just really frustrating at times. This was one of them moments, but there was another moment later on in the film where this happened. And I was just like, oh, this could have been so much better if you went this way. But other times, weirdly, in contrast, instead of taking you back a bit, it will show you something and then throw 3 or 4 things at you at once, and it's a lot to take in. You can't breathe. Like I said, the pacing is just everywhere, and it's just a little bit of a mess. And if you think some of the movies in this franchise are hard to get your head round, maybe not as much now because you've watched them so many times, then The Matrix 4, or Resurrections if you like, may be the toughest yet. I will be amazed if anyone goes into this on a first time watch and just says, yeah, that made perfect sense to me. Wow, what a movie, you know, I love the way they done this and that. That was all just perfect, you know, perfectly nailed down for the viewer there. I think this definitely requires rewatchability if I can muster myself to do that. Now, I might come back on here on this channel in 2 or 3 years' time, maybe even do a cinema revisited episode of this, because I've changed my mind and I'd like to bump up the score or whatever. Because sometimes films can do that, and this definitely requires more than one watch, I feel, to get the actual story and what is going on. But honestly, right now, I can't see this movie ever winning me over. I also thought it was a very strange performance from Keanu Reeves here. I mean, it felt like at times he didn't believe in this project and he was there for a payday. It's not a bad performance or anything, but I could just see it in him sometimes that he kind of just had other things on his mind and he was thinking, why are we doing this again? I could be totally wrong about that, but I know he had to change his character a little bit because the way the story's set up, but even later on in the movie when things are starting to pan out and stuff, he really didn't change his personality. And like I said, not a bad performance, but definitely not the Neo I know and love. Which is a bit of a shame because he is the heart and soul of the Matrix franchise, I feel. It's all based around him being the one and stuff. But other characters here just weren't really doing it for me either. I mean, if you remember the Matrix where you got Tank and, Mouse, the little guy who makes the woman in the red dress, they're interesting enough characters, nothing special, but you remember them because, they have these little traits about them. But here, all these added characters, they just weren't really doing nothing for me, unfortunately. Look, I am not against remakes, reboots, parts 3 or 4, 5, 6, whatever you want to call it. Even if it's 30 years later, I am not against it at all. There's a Lost Boys remake coming out, which everyone was raging about. I don't care. I'm happy to see it. But at the end of this film, I just couldn't help but feel that The Matrix Resurrections was unnecessary and we didn't really need it. Look, like I said though, this film definitely has its moments. There's a motorcycle scene towards the end which was awesome to watch. It was fantastic to see Neo and Trinity reunited again despite Reeves being a little bit off here. And the fight sequences, the action, there's some cool ass dialogue as well that the Matrix is all known for, all that good stuff. Them feels are here at times, but it is massively let down by its overcomplicated and dull story. I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie now. I'm going to give The Matrix Resurrections a 5.5 out of 10. Maybe better than the third film, which isn't much of an ask. But ultimately, this was a big disappointment for me. Okay, at the end of these reviews, I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now, a fun fact for The Matrix Resurrections is that Lana Wachowski actually decided to write more stories for Neo and Trinity, being this film, after the loss of her parents. And it was her way of dealing with grief because she said Neo and Trinity are the most important characters in her life. Okay guys, I hope you all enjoyed this review. Please consider subscribing to this channel. Got a lot more reviews coming, lots more videos, and if you want to comment about The Matrix Resurrections or the Matrix franchise in general, leave it down below and I'll reply to every single one of you, I promise. Take it all easy guys. I'll see you all next video.